Welcome back. Let's carry on. Okay, so let's start by choosing the characteristics of our API marketplace use context, because as you saw in section 4, there are quite a few. In this context, we are using a shared revenue marketplace, which is a more standard application of using API marketplaces to source capability. We use a marketplace that we know or we have explored, and it looks to have the kind of capability or function we need to meet our objectives or KPIs. We could be working on a gaming solution, building a gaming platform that improves a learner's mathematical computing ability and logic as they master the game and move up the ranks score-wise. If we're targeting underprivileged learners, then we'll need a marketplace that is rich in Android or similar OS integratable capability, because smart devices affordable in that market are likely to be running that OS. So how do we use the marketplace? Well, there are various subscription models that will give you access to the marketplace. Sometimes the subscription is free, but it only allows you to explore and browse the marketplace. Some marketplaces have free APIs that one could call for free. Call, you ask? Well, remember when you had to request Chairman Meow to vacuum? That's how an API call works. You are effectively asking the API to perform the function it has competence in, like vacuuming with Chairman Meow. We'll chat a bit more about that shortly using a case study. Don't freak out, we're using the same case study from section 1. We're not going to build a new one. Chill. So after you subscribe, you explore and find the API you want. It has the capability you need, able to run on an OS version you're using, and has a good number of positive reviews. You buy the API. Now, what does buying the API entail? Well, you can get the API for free and only pay a fee every time it is called, or you could pay for it and get unlimited calls. It all depends on how the marketplace works. Ever heard of an API marketplace key? Well, the key is used similarly to the one we talked about in our robot analogy. It authenticates you to access the APIs that you've purchased to facilitate the successful calling of those APIs for use. So how does the subscription model look like? The following unpack the typical subscription options of a typical shared value marketplace. As you will see, they are not unlike the options we discussed in our robot analogy scenario. The freemium scenario is typically suitable for small-scale exploration. This could be an entrepreneur looking to build a cost-effective prototype, or a corporate embarking on a digital platform-driven venturing exercise at ideation stage, with no long-term commitment to a vendor, sourcing capability for a venturing business case that might end up not being feasible. This is an internal exercise, so only a handful of API calls would be made, possibly for testing or demo purposes. The media option, as we've chosen to name it here, is also still for prototyping and ideation, where the solution is closer to a beta version to be tested in the market. Depending on the sample size, the API calls could be substantial, as testers and trialists test and play with the functionality. The product or service is not in the market and is not generating any revenue yet, while running up the API call costs. So you might want to minimize that cost by taking a package where the cost is a bit lower per call. Lastly, we deal with what we've decided to name the mighty option. Higher upfront subscription costs, lower rate per API call. This option works well when the service is in the market and there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of users on an application or platform that is leveraging capability sourced from an API marketplace and constantly making multiple calls from multiple users multiple times a day. The business case must make sense here, and one might want to limit the functionality that makes high usage of API calls to paying users so as to offset that cost. We will unpack this scenario with our case study shortly. Speaking of case study, remember the dating platform we discussed in section 1. Let's revisit it again. A quick, quiet recap of the case study fundamentals of the business model. The functionality to API process we unpacked in section 1. As well as an explanation of each of the extracted APIs. Right. So what is an API call for each of these APIs? Well, for this API, you are calling an API with functionality that authenticates a user via their Facebook account to be able to log in onto the dating platform. Every time a user logged in this way, there is an API call from your dating app on their device to the API marketplace, and this call is authenticated using the unique key assigned to your dating platform by the API marketplace because you have paid for the API and have access to it. Now, every API is charged depending on the subscription package chosen by you as the dating platform owner who has subscribed to an API marketplace to source capability to build your dating platform. Subscription package, you ask? We're talking about the subscription packages described here. We've just discussed this. Focus. If you've chosen the freemium package, you'll be charged R1 every time an API is called. So for this API, you'll be charged R1 by the API marketplace each time a user logs into your platform using their Facebook profile.